Hi everybody, good morning. Welcome back to TME, where I'm no longer trucking, and you guys know that, and I haven't for quite some time, but I don't want to change the name of my channel because I still kind of like it. Okay, but I'm getting back with you guys, and I'm happy to be getting back with you guys after such a long time. I know I missed a bunch of stuff. I missed Christmas. I missed New Year's. Happy New Year, by the way. We have officially closed out the year of the snake, and we've entered into the year of the horse, and that means a whole bunch of, possibly metaphysical / esoteric things, and it could have a lot of impact on your life and what you experienced last year, what kind of year last year was for you guys. I know for me it was a big year of change where I underwent a lot of huge metamorphosis and changes in my life and things that have made positive impact. I started working on a novel last year, an actual novel, not a non-fiction book about truck driving, which the year before is when I wrote that. And as you guys know, I've already released that on the channel. But last year I started working on an actual fictional novel that I will say the story itself is fictional. The meta-narrative content is completely realistic. It's non-fictional. So if I was to present writing material on a subject that had subject matter about metaphysical things and theological things, I think that's probably the best way to break it down. But I did it in a non-preachy kind of way where I was actually using that stuff to design and tell a story so that it actually has more meaning in the long run for anybody that reads the book. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm working on. On the surface, the book itself, it's considered YA, and I didn't really break that down for you guys in the last video and explain to you what YA is, but basically YA stands for young adult literature, and that is the surface genre that my book falls into by default, but that's not actually the content that's in the book. If I could give you an example of another book that probably does something quite similar, it would have to be like probably the Harry Potter series, where it's written for young adults. However, it's got some subject matter in it that covers over... I've never read the books, but I'm sure there's probably some occult stuff in those Harry Potter books where it goes into magical craft and this and that. And even if it's from the woman that wrote the book, even if it's all from, just her imagination, things that she's cooking up or thinking up as far as like magic craft goes or anything like that, it still falls into an occult kind of genre. That's a good example to give you guys an idea about what I'm doing. My subject matter in the book that I'm writing isn't relative to Harry Potter at all, but to give you an idea and just say that maybe this is a better way of putting it. YA is like a vehicle. It's a container for a book like the Harry Potter series, the books on Harry Potter. It falls into YA because that's a good container for it. That's a good vehicle for it. But it's actually about so much more. It's about human tragedy. It's about loss. Again, I've never read any of these books, but I'm just going off of things that I've picked up on about them. Like, I think he lost his parents, so there's a whole backstory with that, and coping and an inability to grieve while he's going to this magic school. My point is to not talk about Harry Potter. My point is to just kind of give you guys an example of how my book kind of works in a similar way. But I've reached a huge milestone, and this is another reason why I haven't really made any videos on the channel in such a long time, is because I've been working really hard On my normal everyday job, I've been working hard, but I've also been working a lot on my book in my spare time on the weekends. And, well, just to give you an idea about how much progress I've made, I'm actually sitting at 45 chapters at this point. And another thing about my book is that it's heavy for YA. It's got a high word count. It's at over 180,000 words as of my first pass of working on it. Right now, I'm at the overture, so I'm at the midsection of the book. I've stopped. I'm going to double back on myself, and I'm actually working on the second pass. The first pass is when you're writing the plot, you're writing the characters and any meta-narrative cross points into the storyline itself. And then when you go back and you revise everything on your second pass, you're trying to trim. So anything that goes over things rhetorically, you're trying to cut that stuff out and minimize that stuff unless it's intentional. And right now, I'm sitting heavy at 180,000 words. From the research that I've done, that's about twice as long as a YA novel should be. So, yeah, I gotta watch my word count, but the fact that I'm going back over on myself and doing a second pass now, I'm gonna be trimming a lot of stuff off that I've already written. And here's another thing, because I know you guys have heard, I've told you in the past, that I am using ChatGPT to help me write. So I know a lot of people are probably thinking, well, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that ChatGPT wrote a book for you? Or does that mean that you're kind of integrating the technology to help you write while you actually write it? I'd say that it's a mixture of both. And here's the thing, I failed to do a lot of research on this before I started actually working on my book. But the thing is, after doing some research, I discovered that it's very common, and what's going on right now in the literature world, the writing world, is that a lot of people are discovering OpenAI and how it's actually helping them become more productive with writing. And that's not ever really what it is, to a certain extent, but here's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to capitalize and exclusively exercise AI's capability of writing books. Like, there's people out there, if you do some research and look it up on YouTube, you'll see that there are actually people out there that have started businesses on using AI like ChatGPT to write books for them. You'll find articles online about people that literally have written books in one day. I'm talking about like 150 pages in one day because they used AI to do it. I'm not doing that. I am not doing that whatsoever. I've been working on my book for 7 months, and yes, I'm using AI, but I'm so meticulous about what I want to be in the book, and I'm so meticulous about the design that I'm not trying to rush through any of it. If anything, I've gone back on myself. I kind of compared myself to like an inchworm to ChatGPT, where to move forward, I have to go up and then I have to go back down before I actually move forward. So I'm actually doing more vertical movement as I progress in my story than I am doing horizontal movement forward, if that makes any sense. I'm taking my sweet ass time to do this. I really am, because I want to be thorough. And I've explained to you guys in the past that this whole process of writing this book, it's not that I couldn't write it on my own. It's just that my life is so busy and I'm so ADD that I actually, it makes a huge difference for me to have that backup, that tool of OpenAI to use to write write my book. And trust me, I've tried. I'll be honest with you guys. I've actually tried to just get ChatGPT to write it for me, and it doesn't work because it always goes off in this direction or that direction, and somewhere I don't want my book to go. So I'm extremely meticulous. I've become OCD with how I'm using the tool to write my book. Okay. Does that mean that ChatGPT has rights over my story? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. As far as I know, in the laws that I've read and looked into about AI writing and copyright and this and that, from what I understand, you have to have this. You basically have to do it the way that I'm doing it to have rights over your work. And ChatGPT is not going to steal your work because it's a huge database. And the people that design ChatGPT, they're not looking for novels to steal. That's not why they created it. They could care less about my novel. I'm sure a lot of people could care less about my novel. And that's another thing, especially when the majority of the literary world and a lot of people out there that actually read books, they tend to cringe when they hear that somebody used AI to write a book. They're not interested at all. It's the same thing with art. It's the same thing with music. And to a certain extent, I can understand where they're coming from. After all, if I had the choice to listen to a band like Tool versus listening to a song that was made on ChatGPT, of course I'm going to choose Tool. I'm going to listen to the real thing. But that does not mean that I wouldn't at some point get a little bit curious about AI music or wanting to know what that stuff sounds like. There's an advantage that AI has over humans. There's also a big disadvantage. I'd say that the disadvantage is greater than the advantage, for sure. The advantage that AI has over humans is that AI doesn't have the same limitations that humans have. And I've already mentioned my biggest limitation. That's the fact that I have ADD. So I have a hard time focusing. If I was on medication, it would be different. But I'm not on medication. I'm not interested in getting on medication for ADD. You know, that boat sailed a long time ago, and I gave up on that shit a long time ago. I'm not interested in taking anything like that. I don't want it. But I don't want anything to determine. Like I said, integration's really important to me, where I'm realizing, yes, I have an issue with attention span. I have an issue with getting past that barrier in my mind that breaches that point of creativity for me. So what do I do besides taking drugs, prescription drugs to treat it? I do things that are even more impactful, like meditation, or like using a tool like OpenAI to help me. And so that's a big deal, you know. And it's making in my mind, in my perspective, I feel like I've made big strides. Now, I mentioned previously that this story that I'm working on, yes, it's been added to, it's been molded and shaped more, but the skeleton of this story, the scaffolding, the architecture of this story, I've been carrying inside of my subconscious mind for 30 years, almost 30 years. I'd say next year or the year after is when I came up with this story, the seeds of this story. I was literally in high school. I was literally coming out of middle school, going into high school when I came up with the skeleton of this story. I've been carrying it around since 1997, 1998. And so that's another reason why it's YA. That's another reason why I'm a 40-year-old ex-truck driver that's writing about teenagers. Now, my creative license that I have unofficially given myself as a 40-year-old man to write about teenagers is that I'm writing about teenagers from my generation. It's not like I'm writing about teenagers from this generation, from their perspective. If I wrote about my kids, who are, my oldest son, he's actually 17. And so if I were to write about kids from this generation, I would write about it from the perspective of an adult. But because I'm writing about my own generation, yes, I was a teenager once. I was a teenager in the late 90s. And so that gives me the creative license to do what I'm doing. By all means, in my opinion. So that's another reason why it might seem, or it might come off as kind of odd that I'm writing, a fictional novel about teenagers as a 40-year-old man. But, I don't have any shame in that department. I just don't. Because I can relate, and I was there, and I lived those days. And I have the nostalgia. I also have the hidden, secret, personal memory and meaning of what all that stuff meant to me during that time period. The music, the movies, the pop culture, the things that I discovered that were under the surface that weren't, related to surface, subconscious things, development, growing up, the hidden meaning that I've discovered in my own life, dealing with grief, integrating pain into creativity, which is something that I touched on largely in my last video. So all these different concepts come to play. They come together to shape this book that I'm working on. Like I said, I've reached a point now where I've made a huge milestone. Yes, it has been a long time coming. It's been over 6 months at this point, but I'm actually working on my second pass of the first 45 chapters, which is a big deal. It's a milestone. And for me to be coming to you now and saying, yes, it's almost February now. Last June, I started working on writing a book. I wrote a prolepsis for a novel, which is kind of like a prologue. I shared it with ChatGPT. I shared my ideas with ChatGPT, and that's when, the OpenAI system, it was like, it started rubbing its hands together, and it's like, okay, if you want this to be a novel, I'll help you. And that's when I started collaborating with the AI. And I gave it all the plot details that I already had. I developed all of it. I saved all of my conversations. I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of conversation with ChatGPT about how the book came together. And it literally came together just through conversation, relation, comparison, going on and on and on. And that's how I was able to build the structure and the depth in it. I don't think I would have been able to do that without that assistance. But because of such, it becomes one of these stories where it's like, it would take a literary genius to come up with the stuff that I've come up with. And so I'm readily admitting to you guys that no, I didn't. I had help. I had help putting it all together. All the ideas came from my mind, but as far as organizing them, structuring them into a book, I would say that you have to look at it like this. I'm like the director. I'm the one that throws all the ideas, all the concepts, all the meta-narrative meaning, into it. And ChatGPT is the actual author, the writer of the book itself. And I've been so meticulous with it that yes, I have 180,000 words at this point, but at the same time, if I were careless, if I was just doing this as a cash grab or something like that, then I would have moved on by now. But I'm not. I keep going back on myself to shape and shift and refine things. And honestly, it's gotten to the point now to where it's like, if I had just written the book on my own accord, then it would have actually I probably would have been further along by now than what I am. But that's okay. For me, that's okay. because I want to take my time. To me, this is like the work of my life. And to carry something for 3 decades like that, and then one day just start writing it down and writing my ideas on paper. Yes, there's a reason why it never came into fruition previously, and that's because I lacked the technology to do so. I lacked the time to do so, and I also had these limitations where I was holding myself back. Things like substance abuse and stuff like that absolutely held me back and kept me from reaching my capability. But now that I've entered into this new season, going back to what I said about last year being the year of the snake, well, here's a good example. So what do snakes do? They shed their skin, and that's kind of what I did last year in a huge way. I overcame things that I had been battling with for over a decade, well over a decade. I finally overcame that stuff. And so when I did, it just opened up this whole other door of possibilities to me. And now I'll say that, I'm at this point in my life where I haven't stood in this place since I was a teenager, since that time period that I did start writing this book. Because keep in mind, guys, I started using substances when I was like 16 years old. That would have been, the year 2001. I started smoking pot every day. I was smoking cigarettes prior to that point, and that's where all that shit started happening in my life, and I lost control and I became an addict. But all that stuff happened early on. Like I said, I was 16 years old. And that was just after the point that I came up with all the details for this story. So now that it's nearly 30 years later, and I can say, well, I don't use nicotine anymore. I don't use any kind of substances like that anymore. I drink beer on the weekend, a few times a month. But for the most part, I'm a generally healthy guy. But I'll change the subject now. I just wanted to share with you guys that I just met a huge milestone on writing my book. I'm in a place now. I did it literally, guys, for so long, for so many months, where this was just dragging on and on and on. I started to think that I wasn't ever going to make it to this point. But now that I'm here, I know I can finish this book. And yes, it's going to be huge as far as the length of the book itself. Even after I do my revisions and I trim it, it's still going to be a really long book. It's going to be quite a sizey novel. But here, the last thing I'll say about it is I didn't realize that there's a whole market. It's as sad as I feel talking about markets and shit. I don't like corporate things. I don't like talking about markets. I don't like talking about business or anything like that, but this is literally what you have to base your creative merit off. Like, you have to, there's got to be a way, if you're creating things and you want people to get access to what you're creating, you have to look at it from this standpoint. You have to look at marketing. You have to get yourself out there. I wasted so much time 2 years ago working on all this truck driving material, trying to start a business with that, and not knowing what the hell I was doing, not even understanding that that's not even what I wanted to do. I was just trying to get out of the situation that I was in. But yes, after doing more research, I've learned that yes, there is an entire market for AI assisted literature. There is, and like I said before, there are people that have started businesses on using AI to write books. But like I said, I'm not looking for productivity. I'm looking for the quality of a fine literary novel, and I'm trying to use AI to help assist me, to help me put this stuff together. And I'm doing it in an extremely meticulous way. I'm using it as a tool. I'm not using it as a source. It's almost like if you guys could relate to this or not. I don't know how many people have ever tried to paint with like oil paint or anything like that, but like if you've got your canvas, you got your brushes, you've got your paint, and you're trying to spread it, you're trying to use it in the best way. Well, what you'll find is that the paint, oftentimes it'll get stiff. It's too thick to spread it out. It's too thick to layer it. It's too thick to. You often end up doing what's called impasto. Is that what it's called? You might use a painting knife or a blunt tool to help spread the paint or create a texture with the paint, but you're having difficulty spreading the paint out. You're having difficulty blending the paint. So what do you use to help you to help assist you in doing that? You use a medium. There's different types of mediums. Well, to give you a good analogy, that's kind of what ChatGPT has been like for me. It's been like the medium. It's been the vehicle. It's helped drive these creative expressions, ideas, and this storyline into something that's cohesive, that fits on a page and makes sense. It's like my medium. That's what it is. I'm not trying to advertise or advocate for AI. I'm not trying to say, hey, you want to write a book? Use AI and it'll do it all for you. I'm not saying that at all. There are people out there that are saying that, but that's not what I'm trying to get at. I don't want AI to do this for me. I want AI to assist me to do something that I should have done a long ass time ago. So that's another big culprit that I'm thinking about, that I'm taking into consideration. This is like a new frontier for me. To one degree or another, I've always had an interest in writing. Always. And I started becoming interested in writing at an early age. I'd say I was about 8 years old whenever I started really wanting to do creative writing. So this isn't something where I just got a wild hair one day and I wanted to try this. No, I've always enjoyed writing. As you guys can tell, I've always enjoyed talking. Well, I've enjoyed writing just as much. And so it's been subconsciously on one level or another, it's been something that I am no stranger to, and something that I've always had an interest in for the majority of my life. It's just another creative expression, creative outlet. And I'm finally, thanks to this tool that's helping me keep my ideas, my thoughts sharp and direct and intentional and productive at the same time, I'm actually able to pull it all together and get it to fit in a cohesive way, like I said. What are my thoughts or what are my future plans with this book if I actually do finish it? I'm hoping to finish it this year. I'm hoping that it won't take more than a year to get it finished. And that comes with a lot of, like I said, revisions. There's going to be a second pass. There already is. There might be a third pass. I've got to get proofreaders out there. I do have some people that are interested in reading it. Once all that stuff gets accomplished and everything, it's just a matter of working on copyright and getting what I have to fall into that criteria and meet all those demands in order for it to be eligible for copyright. At that point, once I'm able to do that, it'll be published. It might not be published on paper. It might be published in ebook form before it ever gets published on paper. I'm hoping that it'll be considered once it is discovered, I'm hoping that despite the fact that it was AI assisted in the writing process, that it'll be eligible to be published and printed on paper, because it's more than me wanting to get any kind of financial gain or anything like that out of this book. I do want to get something back in return, because it has been so much work for me to do this, and I've had to dedicate myself to do it. And I feel like it's got a meaningful, impactful story within it that is going to reach people and help people and spread light into darkness in those types of ways. It'll reach somebody, and even the people that don't get anything like that out of it, they're going to be entertained by it. I promise they will. There's something very human about it, the story itself. So, like I said, if it ever does get published on paper, I'm hoping that that'll be the case. And that's what I'm aiming at, not for financial gain, but just for the sake of spreading and sharing a story, you know, a meaningful story. If it's something that I've been carrying in my interior world for almost 3 decades, then it's got a lot of meaning to it. It does. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to just help you understand that it's pretty big. You know, it's a big story. It's got life lessons. It's got abstract thoughts, ideas, all interwoven into it. And what I think, I've really tried to do it in a beautiful way, in a way where, you know, if people stare at paintings to interpret the art and find out, you know, what's the deeper meaning to this painting, or music, what's the deeper meaning to the lyrics in this song. I've written this book in the same way, where people will step back and they'll question and they'll try to size everything together to find the deeper meaning in it, and they will find it if they are interested. They'll absolutely find it. But it's time to move on. It's time to talk about something else. As far as like personal wellness, personal health, I'll give you guys an update on my process that I've been working on as far as personal training and physical health, and going to the gym and trying to make an impact in my 40-year-old aging ex-truck driver body. Somebody that used nicotine for a quarter of a century and no longer does, what that's like, and how I'm coping with that, and how I'm surviving the stress, because there's definitely stress. I'd say like what feels like increased stress, and trying to deal with, you know, coping with that kind of stuff in a different kind of way, rather than reaching for a vaporizer like all the time. I haven't done that since last May, by the way. That's when I put all that vaping shit down, and I haven't picked it back up since then. I haven't been on any nicotine substance since last August. I was on the patch for the whole summer, and then I stopped using that in August. So I've come a long way. I'd say, how long is that? That's almost, what is that? That's almost 6 months, okay, since I stopped using nicotine altogether. Clean blood. And so the way that I've been adjusting to that is I've been going to the gym, trying to go multiple times a week, failing a lot here lately since it's winter time. And my body's just, I don't know, there's something about wintertime that it slows you down physically, I think. And, well, I have made progress in some ways, and I have digressed in other ways. I've reached some milestones with some physical fitness goals that I've had. Now, the first thing that I've accomplished is obviously weightlifting, and that's been completely new for me. As a 40-year-old guy, I've never really faithfully worked out or trained my muscles in any way whatsoever. Even when I was a teenager and a young adult, I didn't lift weights. I went through a period where I bench pressed every day for like a month or two when I was 18, I think. That's how old I was when I did that. But then I gave up on it soon after that. So that's basically the only exposure I ever had to weightlifting until last year. And so I've been trying to do that faithfully. I can't exactly say that I've gotten physically stronger as far as my deadlifts on barbells and stuff like that. But I am able to do things that I couldn't do before. I'm able to do, push-ups in succession. I'm able to do dips. I'm able to do pull-ups and stuff like that. I wasn't able to do that stuff prior to last year and prior to my journey at the gym. I'm really interested in God, I can't think of the terminology right this moment now that I'm on the spot talking about this stuff. I'm very interested in calisthenics, and that's using your own body weight to build muscle. So I'm interested in that. Would be the dips, that would be the pull-ups and stuff like that, planking, all that stuff. I'm interested in isometrics. That's when you freeze your muscles in one spot and you use that to build strength. So instead of doing push-ups, you might get into push-up stance and you literally sit there as long as you can and you hold your body weight up with your chest and your biceps. So I do a lot of stuff like that as well, on top of the weightlifting at the gym. That's another thing about this job, guys. Since I got this job, I started it last July, so I'm right at 7 months since I got this job. I'm still, I will say there are things about this job that cause me to struggle mentally. There's a lot of taxing mental aspects to it. It can be stressful, this job. All the technology and stuff that they use algorithms to build my route every day. I'm driving a lot. I've got a lot of work to do at each one of these houses. I'm doing move-in preps and stuff like that for people to move into these rental houses. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's also good exercise at the same time. So I'm getting a lot of cardio. But speaking of cardio, I've made some huge, what I would call impressive milestones. Now, I also started running on a treadmill last August whenever I started going to the gym. And since then, I've trained my body to run at least twice a week. When I first started going to the gym, I would lift weights first for however long, maybe a couple of hours. And then finally, I would go and jump on a treadmill and I would run as long as I could. I've talked about this before, so some of this stuff I'm just repeating. But I started out not being able to run but maybe like 2 minutes at a time before I would have to stop. But I stuck with it, guys, and I got past that summit, that peak that you have to get past whenever you're training your body to run continuously. And so it eventually just grew and grew, and I worked on my endurance. And last week, I happily say that I was actually able to run for an hour straight without stopping at 6 miles an hour. So I literally ran 6 miles without stopping. And I don't recommend doing that. It's It's not necessarily good for your body mechanically. It's very hard on your ankles. It's very hard on your knees, your Achilles tendons, all that stuff. But I literally wanted to I wanted to find out. I was asking myself, I wanted to know, what would it be like to be Forrest Gump? I just felt like running. So that's what I did. And I pushed myself for like 6 months. I didn't give up on it. And I would literally find improvement. It started out extremely slow. It was hard. It took maybe a month for me to work myself up to the point to where I was running a mile without stopping. But for the first time in my life ever, I was able to do that, and it was huge for me. Because I wasn't even able to do that when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was overweight. So I didn't like running when I was a kid. I also had asthma. And so I couldn't really run when I was a kid. So the fact that I started doing it at 40 years old is kind of weird. And the fact that I've had multiple knee surgeries on my right knee. I've got bad disc in my back. But I say that overall, like, despite the fact that a lot of the cartilage they had to take out of my right knee, and that was another thing that deterred me from running after having knee surgeries, is I was just afraid, like, I don't want to get osteoarthritis, I don't want to get rheumatoid arthritis, and I also have this autoimmune thing going on where I have psoriasis really bad on my body. And, in my scalp and everything. So I was just afraid, I was concerned about getting issues with arthritis. But I'd say that since I started running, a lot of the knee pain and stuff that I was having previously has gone away. When I was still driving a truck every day and I was sitting on my ass 95% of the time, that's when I had the most knee issues. But the stronger my legs have gotten, my quadriceps, my hamstring, like my calves, all those muscles in my legs, the stronger they've gotten, the less pain I've had. So it's actually improved things with pain. And so what I've been doing every week more recently is I'll go 2 times a week to run, and then I'll try to go 2 times a week to lift weights and work out. I tried to separate my cardio days from my workout days, and I found that I'm actually a lot stronger as far as doing cardio because I'm not tired. When I was trying to do both at the same time, I would lift weights for a couple of hours, and then I'd get on the treadmill, and I'd already be kind of tired. But now that I've separated my days, and thankfully my wife, she's awesome, and she's been very understanding with this. She doesn't have to be like, she could be like, well, it's not fair that you get to go to the gym 4 times a week, and but she hasn't been like that at all. She's actually been really understanding about it and just really supportive about these goals that I've set for myself, and because of that, I've actually exceeded a lot of goals that I've had. It's transformed my upper body since I started lifting weights. Before, I watched my weight as a truck driver by doing the ketogenic diet almost religiously, and I'd say that particular diet in itself, though it is very effective, and it'll help you lose a lot of your body mass as far as fat goes, it's not very healthy, and it's hard on your organs, it's hard on your heart to do that kind of diet. You actually aren't getting any carbs at all whenever you do that diet. So yes, the fat is literally melting off your body, but you also have issues with any kind of sustained cardio or anything like that. If you tried to run on the keto diet, you'd probably pass out, honestly, because your blood, your all the things that your body depends on for energy, that it gets from complex carbohydrates, you're literally neglecting all of that diet to do the keto diet. And so though you are losing a lot of weight, you're very weak. So it's not a good sustainable diet to do long term. But I did it for years because I wasn't getting any exercise in. I wasn't doing anything. So that's actually how I was able to control my weight for years as a truck driver. And because of that, I actually was in a pretty unhealthy state as far as my body goes for the longest time. So this whole experience, this whole process that I've been working on, since I quit using nicotine last year, it's just transformed my body. It's improved my health. I've got so much more energy. I feel great. I've got so much energy, sustained energy to do my job now. So it's been great. It's literally been amazing for me. And I'm not even making 100% wise decisions in everything that I do. I don't eat sugar. I don't ingest any kind of sugar. I try to stay low sodium with my diet unless I am exercising and sweating a lot. So I try to be health conscious as far as what I'm putting into my body, but I'm not being 100% health conscious because, like I said, I still drink beer. I still have, every now and then I'll have some like whiskey or some kind of liquor or something like that. So I'm not 100% making right choices, but at the same time, the choices that I have made a huge impact. I don't want you guys to think I'm a borderline alcoholic. I'm not. I'm just saying that, yes, whenever I have the free time and I just want to hang out and chill with my wife and just relax, I go to the gym on Friday, I might run or I might work out, and then I come home and I might have a 6-pack of beer and take a shot at whiskey or something like that. And I'm fine. I just recently had to get my med card renewed for my CDL, even though I'm not driving a truck anymore. I refuse to let my license lapse. So I'm trying to stay on top of my med card and everything. So they did a bunch of tests on me. My liver, my heart. I had to do a stress test, an echocardiograph, all that stuff at a cardiologist. And all my numbers came back normal. My heart is strong. And so I don't regret the choices that I made, just suffering through the nicotine withdrawal and all that, coming off of the kratom that I was taking every single day, multiple times a day for nearly 10 years, being able to stop doing that. And the only thing that I can attribute that to is meditation, literally. That was the only thing that helped me with that. Okay, so let me talk about one more thing. I feel like this has been a really positive video. But I'll leave it with this. My birthday is coming up in March. I'll be 41, and I've actually got something awesome planned. And I don't know if I'm gonna try to vlog this and put it on my main channel or what. I might not. Not only because I simply don't have the right kind of camera to capture something like this, but I don't really want to involve any kind of electronics for this. But guys, I'm planning on having a spiritual journey. I'm not talking about a shamanistic drug-inducing journey. I'm not talking about taking psychedelics or anything like that. But I'll say that it's comparable in this way. On my birthday, I've got reservations to stay in a cabin on the Okefenokee Swamp in South Georgia. There's a state park that's actually growing so much in popularity and significance in the Okefenokee Swamp that it's actually soon to become, as far as I know, last thing I read about it, it's soon to become a national park, which is huge. That's a huge deal if this actually happens. It is a dark sky area. It is preserved. That means it's been laid aside. It's a huge area of land where no development is allowed, no air traffic is allowed, Nothing like that. And it's a dark sky location. It's the darkest point in the southeast region of the United States. This area that I'm going to camp out at. Now, I'm going on my birthday, and I've already looked it up. It's a new moon when I'm going. I'm going to stay for a couple of nights, simply just so that I can see the darkest sky that I've ever witnessed in my entire life. I want to see the Milky Way, guys. I want to look up at the night sky, and I want to be impacted by that. I want to remember how small I actually am. And that's why I'm doing it. The guy that's riding my ass right now, he doesn't remember how small he really is. He needs to look at the night sky. I think everybody needs to look at the night sky. I think it would set something in precedence for our perspective, our perception. There would be something healing about it. It would set us back in our place in a gentle kind of way, while reminding us how vulnerable we really are. But it'll also help us realize how alive we are. If we connect with that moment and connect with something that organic, that natural, on a scale like that, think about it. That's like pushing the reset button on your nervous system. That's literally what it's like. I think that it's healthy. I think that it's probably one of the best, healthiest, wisest decisions that I could do on my birthday. Is literally just to go on this excursion to sit out in the woods on the Okefenokee Swamp in the quiet. I'm talking no cell signal, no connection to the outside world, only a connection to what I look up to and see. I'm excited about it, guys. It's something that I've felt the need to do for the longest time. Light pollution is so epidemic. We have no idea what we're cheating ourselves out of with all of our artificial light. Some people probably do. Some people understand where I'm coming from. A lot of people don't even realize, and they probably never will. They'll live their entire life without realizing what it means to look up and actually see the stars and see the grandeur of the cosmos right there at your face, at your fingertips. You face to face with the cosmos. Everything in creation, everything that's real, and the scale, the vastness of it, and how it gives you a new perspective, and it just gives you a new found respect and meaning for life. That's what I'm looking for. It's like a soul journey that I'm going to go on, with every intention to grow from it and remember and recall and just hold on to that moment. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a spiritual, profound experience without inducing any kind of chemicals into my bloodstream. I want it to be 100% natural. I want to experience pure consciousness while I'm focused on the stars. And I think it's going to be one of the most profound moments of my life. And if there's anything that I can bring back from that experience and share it with you guys, I will. But I'm just giving you a heads up, and that's the next biggest thing that's going to happen in my life on my birthday. But anyway, thanks for listening to this video. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate your time and your interest. I hope you guys are all doing good. I hope you take care. I hope to see you again soon. Again, leave comments. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to continue on from here, day to day, living my life, enjoying the feeling of being alive and embracing life, and integrating pain into creativity. And that's what I'm here to do. I hope you guys can agree. All right, I'll see you next time. Later.